Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Teal Talks. I am Holly Savini, and my pronouns are she, her.
My name is Chris, and I use she, her pronouns as well.
And this week we wanted to talk about something a little bit different. So Chris and I are both reading a book, and that's where we're going to start. So Chris and I are reading a book that is by Lori Gottlieb, and it is titled Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. And this video is not about that book, but it's about a little kind of, I would almost say like a short essay that's talked about in that book that we really wanted to talk about today because it's one of my favorite things right now, pieces of writing, I will say. And the pieces of writing that is talked about in that book is titled Welcome to Holland, and that is by Emily Pearl Kingsley, I should say. So I first wanted to describe what the writing talks about, and then we thought we would kind of relate it back to the work that we do and talk about why it's so powerful. So I'm going to link this little piece. I'm calling it a piece of writing because it's almost like a short story in a way, but it's almost like an essay. So whatever you want to call it, I'm going to link it in our comments below if you guys want to check it out for yourself, because my description won't do it justice. But it is called Welcome to Holland. And the description of this writing, like I said, it is written by Emily. Emily is the mother of a child with a disability. And the author goes on to talk about how having a child with a disability can sometimes, at times, feel like a loss, or it's something that for some people, they grieve a life that they thought that they were going to have. And that for some people who might not understand that feeling can feel a little bit like, wow, or how could you say that? But we're going to talk about it in the way that she talks about the writing. So in Welcome to Holland, they describe you as the person who's reading. You're going on a trip to Italy. And when you go to Italy, you've planned this trip for years. You've been always excited to go to Italy. You packed for Italy. You bought your tickets way ahead of time. You planned every place that you're going to visit. You knew what hotel you were going to stay in. You knew all about the weather. So all the clothes you packed were based on the Italian weather. And everything you had was for this beautiful Italian trip that you had planned. So you get on the plane, you are waiting on the plane takes off, and you are on the plane. Should I say the plane one more time? For the amount of time that it takes to get to Italy. Don't ask me how long. I've never been to Italy. I don't know how long it takes to get there. But you take off, you finally land, and you are so excited because this is the trip you've always been waiting for, and you land in what you think is Italy. But the stewardesses welcome you, and they say you can get ready to take your seatbelts off, but they say, welcome to Holland. And you are like, what the heck? I thought I was going to Italy. Like, what is this? And you sit there for a second, and the whole point is you can get really, really upset because, like we said, you planned this whole trip and you've planned years around this idea of going to Italy that you've always wanted to do, and you were so excited to be there. But now you're in Holland. So you can grieve the fact that you're not in Italy, that you don't get to do all those exciting things, eat all of that pizza and pasta and drink that wine. Or you can make the best of your trip to Holland, see the flowers, walk around, see the sights of this place that might be new and different to you. And Holland doesn't have to be a bad place. It's just not what you were expecting. It's a different place than what you had originally planned. So bringing it back to the beginning, Emily talks about having a child with a disability can feel like that. It might be this might not be the life that you had originally planned, but that's not a bad thing. Could be an incredible gift that is just now different, that you can still make the best of your beautiful, wonderful child. So that's my description of Welcome to Italy. But I think that this essay is really beautiful, particularly in describing being a parent of a child with a disability. But I also think that we can relate this to the work that we do, as well as just loss and just experiences in general. And so that's what we kind of wanted to talk about today, how we can plan our lives around whatever. We make plans every single day, and we wake up every morning thinking that things are going to go a certain way. You make plan a trip or a vacation, or you are hoping that your job will turn out a certain way. And sometimes things don't always go to plan. When we experience things like trauma, they can kind of turn our world upside down. And that is really, really significant and impactful. But that doesn't mean that we can't process, heal, and still make the best out of our Holland of a life. And that's what Chris and I wanted to talk about. So I'll stop talking for a second.
Thank you for your excellent storytelling skills, all very like theatrical, and the visualization really felt like I was on a plane for a scene. But I mean, Holly makes a lot of good points. I think what it really comes down to is perception and grief. Some of the big themes that are coming through, obviously, grief and loss, and those are all natural and normal and okay to grieve those losses, to process those things, like Holly mentioned, to heal from them. But I think it speaks a lot about drawing strength from negative experiences when you put it in the lens of trauma. So obviously, trauma is not Italy. I'm not really sure what's in Holland, to be quite honest, either. But like, trauma is not necessarily like pizza, wine, and pasta. It's not exactly something we plan for in the same way that like a trip to Italy and a trip to Holland, while I can't tell you anything in Holland, neither are necessarily bad. Trauma is a little bit different because obviously it's not necessarily a positive experience, and there might be a lot of negative components to it, but we can still draw strength from those negative experiences. So we can go to Holland, quote unquote, the after trauma world, in this very like long and drawn out metaphor that everyone's probably lost in at this point, but you can be in that kind of like after piece of trauma where you are processing and you are healing, and draw strength from those negative experiences that other people might not have who haven't experienced trauma. So I think it really shifts the perspective a little bit. It's a cool thing to kind of apply to our lives, to our experiences. And I think in some ways it's a little bit on the same line as like a negativity bias, where we look at like all of these things that have gone wrong. Our brains very naturally do this. It's kind of like a well ingrained pathway, and we have to practice making new ones that are a little more focused on the positive. But when we have a negativity bias, it's essentially like I have a really great day, I do all of these things, I maybe hung out with my friends, we went shopping, we went out to eat, it was a really good day, but in my car on my way home, I spilled my coffee all over my car, and now all I can think about is that I've just ruined the upholstery in my car, and my whole day feels like it was horrible because of that. That's luckily never happened to that extent to me, but Holly, you look like it might happen to you from your face. But still, like that, and then all I focus on is this really bad thing that happened instead of all of the good that happened. And I think that's exactly what Welcome to Holland is talking about, this short essay writing, piece of writing, whatever it is. This idea that like things didn't really go as planned, but there's still stuff to explore in Holland. And I think that that's a really powerful takeaway. It might not be Italy, it might not be what we wanted, but there's still a lot that we can explore here. And we can spend all of our time being sad that we didn't make it to Italy, or we can enjoy Holland and what it has to offer. So thanks for sharing that synopsis with us.
Definitely. And to add a second piece that I was just kind of thinking about as you were talking, I think a lot about the term that is disenfranchised grief, which is grief of something that isn't usually recognized by the greater of everyone. So regular grief, regular good old grief would be the loss of something that other people can really understand. So if you lose a loved one, you know, everyone knows that that's a sad thing to do. If your loved one passes away, people will send you their condolences. But when people experience loss and grief in areas of their life that isn't always recognized. So if a pet that you love passes away, if you experience trauma that can feel like a loss in an area of your life, or can feel like grief that you need to process, if you lose a job that you love, or if you lose, I don't know, if you have to give a child up for an adoption, these are experiences of disenfranchised grief. It's like unrecognized grief. And I relate that back to what we're talking about, because I think it's really impactful in that it's important to be able to process these experiences, to feel that pain, to work through that, because these are losses, these are painful, and these are experiences of grief. But the reason I bring it back to Welcome to Holland is the important thing about that is that we still have lives to be able to move forward to too. So it's still important to be able to work through that grief and to experience that grief. But there is still, like I had said before, and like Chris is talking about, there is still a Holland of a world to live as well. And as you work through that grief, we can still kind of be able to recognize what Holland has to offer. And it's different maybe from what we had before, but it's still there. And there's some amazing things to be able to admire and tour.
So note to self, next time Holly and I need to do some research on what's in Holland that we can actually reference, because I honestly don't even know where Holland is on the map. I shouldn't admit that, but geography is not my strong point. So I don't even know where Holland is. I don't even know it's close to Italy. So
they have a flower that's flower remembrance and windmills. It talks about it in the
okay.
Remembrance are flowers.
Okay, flowers and windmills, not quite the pizza, wine, and pasta, but I mean,
it's still beautiful.
Sure.
And with this being said, thank you all so much for tuning in this week as well and listening to us talk about Welcome to Holland. I hope that you think about your own kind of experiences with maybe loss and moving forward and processing. And as always, if you have anything you'd like to add or talk about or any comments, we'd love to hear from you in the comments below. I will be commenting the article or it's not an article, it's definitely a piece of writing by Emily in the comments below. We also love the book Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb. So if you guys want to check that book out, it's a good one. Yeah, and we would love to see you next week. Bye.
Bye.